the alcohol started to take control of my life and I couldn't control the alcohol or the partying. It seemed like everything else came along with it.
Imagine going from signing autographs in packed stadiums to take orders at a Starbucks. From being a millionaire all-star to earn $10 an hour serving coffee. That's not a metaphor. It's the story reel of Wayne Baker, the man who had everything. He lost everything. And yet he found something more valuable than money or fame: redemption. And believe me, her story will not only surprise you, it's going to shake. The Silent Boy of Connecticut. Vin Baker was born in 1971, the son of a pastor. His life revolved around faith, hard work, and good manners. But there was something else, a silent obsession with basketball. He would play alone for hours, imagining being part of the NBA while his mother called him for dinner. "I didn't have new shoes or great trainers, just a worn-out ball and a fierce determination." But what defined him most was his shyness. Baker wasn't the loudest talker in the locker room. Was the one who played harder. That calmness, which made him different, soon transformed him into a phenomenon. The breakthrough, from small college to all-star. Vin Baker played for the University of Hartford, a school so small that most scouts didn't even know it existed. But Baker averaged 28 points and 10 rebounds per game, numbers that could not be ignored.
With the 8th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Vin Baker from the University of Hartford.
In 1993, the Milwaukee Bucks they bet on him in the draft. Nobody saw him as a star. Until he started dominating the league. In just his second year, he was all-star. Between 1995 and 1998, it averaged almost 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists per night. He played with a strange combination, the strength of Karl Malone, and the fine touch of a modern wing. In 1997, he was selected for Dream Team 2, alongside Barkley, Pippen and Olajuwon. For a guy who came from a small university, that was like going from singing in the shower to share the stage with Beyoncé. The $50 million bet, the contract that changed everything. Imagine your company is losing relevance and the world no longer remembers you for being cool. That was Reebok in 1996. They had a history, yes, but they had no future, and the clock was ticking. In that context appears Allen Iverson, small, explosive, and with authenticity that smelled of the street. It wasn't the polished product brands usually want. It was dangerous. It was real. And in marketing, real, it's for sale or it'll burn you. Within Reebok, what in corporate jargon is called a gold gamble took place, a decision that could either resurrect the brand or bury it. Young executives pushed to close a big, fast, and highly visible deal. It was pure audacity, investing in a symbol rather than in statistics. It wasn't just direct money to the player. It was investment in product, design, production, distribution, and marketing. The goal, to convert Iverson into a shoe and a cultural phenomenon that would bring sales and relevance. On the street, it was said that the bet amounted to about $50 million in total commitment, a figure that includes development costs, campaigns, promotions, and the risk of everything collapsing if the public did not connect. While other brands negotiated contracts with players who fit a mold, Reebok did the opposite. They designed the shoe around the character. The question: it wasn't just generic branding, it was a manifesto, white and red, aggressive lines, and a sole designed for explosive movement. It was Iverson's signature shoe. But the masterstroke wasn't just aesthetic, it was to Ming. Reebok released the initial pairs just as the hype surrounding Iverson exploded. They sold 5,000 pairs in Philadelphia within hours. Stores were packed, young people lined up, and suddenly Reebok was back on everyone's lips. And here comes the less romantic and more human part of the story. That contract wasn't just marketing, it was a mattress. Reebok didn't just sign a talent, they crafted a deal that, over the years, would become Iverson's financial lifeline. When his career began to falter and personal decisions took their toll, that brand agreement transformed into a steady income and a safety net that guaranteed his future. Think about it, a company that, at the height of its success, decides to protect your icon in the long term. It's almost paternal, but also strategic. Reebok understood that cultural loyalty could pay dividends and, surprisingly, also save lives. But the stakes, however high, don't erase personal decisions. And when money starts flowing uncontrollably, the other side of the coin emerges. Be prepared, what follows isn't the hero's downfall, it's the human consequence of living on the edge. The decline, when the body no longer responds. Vin Baker's talent was undeniable. But talent alone doesn't protect against burnout. What began as small cracks in the discipline, over time became a fissure that grew larger until it fractured the career. First came the subtle signs: energy dips in the second half of matches, missed training sessions, a weight that no longer responded the same as in his best days.
But Baker, he struggled with alcoholism that nearly cost him everything. His basketball career, homes, millions of dollars, all just gone because of his addiction.
Then came the excuses. And then, reality, the body no longer followed the mind's commands. Close-ups of the trainer's watch, calendar with crossed-out dates, empty gym scenes. Injuries, fatigue, and alcohol formed a dangerous equation. What was once routine at training, recovering, repeating, broke down. Alcohol ceased to be something social and became a tool for escape. Instead of seeking physical therapists or prevention programs, Baker often chose silence or a drink as a quick way out. When the body fails, priorities are revealed. Headlines: performance declining, Baker loses momentum, interspersed with shots of his family and curious press. On the court, the numbers began to betray him. It wasn't a sudden decline like a freefall, it was a steady trickle, diminishing efficiency, clumsier movement, 40 minutes that began to wear him down in the second half. The teams that had once celebrated his arrival began to look at the stats and do the math. Did he still deserve a spot on the roster? The reaction from those around him didn't help. The sports industry sometimes rewards toughness, but punishes vulnerability. Fines, public recriminations, coaches losing patience, all of it eroded trust. What began as a medical and personal issue became a contractual one. Transfers became more frequent, offers shorter, patience scarcer. And the domino effect hit his wallet. Lower returns led to smaller contracts, and smaller contracts led to financial decisions that began to seem irreversible. Friends who had previously asked for favors now demanded results. Close associates who had lived off the limelight began to disappear. Baker, who had known mansions and eight-figure contracts, faced for the first time the feeling of real financial insecurity. Photos of empty houses, keys on the table, blurry bank statements on a news-style screen. But the hardest part wasn't losing playing time or money. It was the loss of identity. For someone who for years defined his worth by his performance on the court, hearing the crowd whisper it's over was a wound no one taught him how to heal. In later interviews, Baker would confess that there were nights when he didn't recognize himself in the mirror. This self-loathing fueled the vicious cycle: drinking to forget, forgetting to sleep, sleeping to try again the next day, and failing again. And when you hit rock bottom, even the noise of the crowd turns to silence. Slow shot of Baker leaving the locker room, cold light, determined but tired stride. The decline wasn't an accident, it was the sum of choices, pressures, and addictions. And when all seemed lost, the breaking point arrived, the moment when Baker had to choose between continuing to fall or starting to rebuild. What came next wasn't instantaneous or easy. But it was real. The precipice, from $1 million to void. Vin Baker had earned more than $100 million. And in just a few years, there was nothing left. The money vanished due to bad investments, financial fraud, and loans to supposed friends. He lived in empty mansions, while her phone stopped ringing. What was once a success? It became silence, debt, and guilt. In his book God in Starbucks, Baker confesses, "I looked in the mirror and I didn't know who I was. I had traded respect for addiction." But what came next? Nobody saw it coming. The coffee that saved him. Baker decided to start over. Literally, from scratch. He applied for a job at Starbucks, a coffee shop in Rhode Island. There, amidst milk vapors and hurried orders, He learned what neither money nor fame had taught him: humility. Your direct supervisor, Howard Schultz, the same owner of Starbucks, and former owner of the Seattle Supersonics, the team that had fired him. Fate had a cruel sense of humor, but also fair. Baker did not see it as humiliation, but as a second chance. Every day he served coffee, but it also served as an example. "I don't work here because I failed," he said. "I work here because I want to win again." The Renaissance, from Starbucks to champion. Vin Baker did not give up. He recovered his faith, his family, and his purpose. He returned to basketball, this time as a mentor and coach. And the circle was complete. In 2021, was assistant coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, the same team that had selected him in 1993. And that year, he won the NBA championship ring. To serve coffee. To lift trophies with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Baker summarized it like this: "Talent made me rich, but humility set me free." The final message. Vin Baker is no longer looking for applause. He seeks to leave his mark. Today he travels to schools and youth centers, telling their story so that others do not repeat their mistakes. It speaks of addiction, of redemption, of faith, and how self-love can rescue you from the abyss. Because success isn't measured in millions, but in the ability to start over. And sometimes, life takes the ball away from you, so that you may learn to pass on your soul. Vin Baker taught us that no matter how low you fall, there's always a way to get back up. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was a true story of pain, downfall, and redemption. So, if this story inspired you, break that like button. Subscribe for more hidden basketball stories. And leave your comment. Backhand index pointing right: who had the most incredible comeback in NBA history? The greatest triumph is not in winning championships, but in getting back up when nobody believes in you anymore. Basketball hot beverage.